One of the world's leading credit rating agencies, Fitch Rating, has uplifting news for Nigerians just a day into 2017. The agency said forecast growth for the country in 2018 will be 2.6%. The projection is a bit higher than the 2.1% growth projected for Nigeria as economy by the International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF. While the World Bank had this year projected that Nigerian economy would grow at 1%. Well, I have an economist, Osilama Okuofu, who is joining me in the studio live to look at these projections. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Okuofu.
Thanks for having me on. Happy New Year
of the season. Yes, I must say
good
that.
To see you again.
We should the same. Well, a lot of figures have been reeled out. IMF, World Bank, even the LCCI has their figures and all of that. In all of these projections, what do you make of it in 2018?
The government came out with a 3.2% projected growth in the 2018 budget. Of course, all these anchored on steady development, in the stock market, which ended quite well, in 2017. Stability in the international, price of oil, petroleum, that's crude oil, which of course, is susceptible to the vagaries of, so many factors. Some of these which are exogenous and outside our control. I think that that's quite an overambitious projection. Yes, it is, because you see, all these are anchored or predicated on so many parameters. One of which, again, too, is the production of crude, at 2.3 million barrels per day, which we will not achieve. I mean, realistically, when 2.1 was projected, we didn't achieve it. It's a work in progress, because the issues that militated against that in the Niger Delta are being ameliorated, which is good. But it's a statement of intent, like I always say. But it's good to be ambitious. I want to see realistically, what the IMF projected might be achievable. Might, I use the word might because, again, too, there was this 8 months period where inflation actually dipped, right? But I foresee a situation where, because of the way the energy sector, there was some turbulence towards the tail end of 2017, the fuel queues and all.
We still continue. I'm going to ask you that too, because I believe that's going to affect some of these figures.
Exactly. Clearly. So inflation will spike, and that will make nonsense of that projection. Again, too, I want to look at it more from the perspective of not outlook, but outcomes. And all these are anchored on a whole lot of factors, which I'm sure we'll deal with as we progress. The interest rate factor is quite key. The cash reserve ratio is key. So I'm looking at the monetary leg of it, as well as the fiscal leg. Government spending has to increase, and it has to be effective. The 750 billion projected to be spent is good, but it has to achieve the aim it's meant to achieve, which invariably means that as all these monies are being spent, jobs will be created. That reduces the unemployment rate. So there are a whole lot of factors that need to come into play to determine if these projections, especially with the growth rate projection, is going to be achieved or not. But most critical and fundamental is the inflationary rate, which I expect would spike.
Government policies kind of remain very important in all of this, because the ease of doing business, many have commended government, and all other moves being made by this administration. Even the central bank's move at addressing the forex challenge seems to be on the good side at the moment. Now, many have said that we still need to do more. Where should be the focus? I'm not ruling out agriculture and manufacturing, which should be our focus now as we are looking away from oil.
Policies are key, because these are the things that determine the direction of investors, both local and foreign. A situation where there is so much uncertainty. Both local and foreign investors will not want to come, especially the foreign investors. And for an emerging economy as ours, it's very fundamental that we get some support externally, because the flow of funds, the access to investable funds, it's a lot quicker and easier from without than within. So it's important that the policies are right, the policies are friendly, and the policies are consistent. Right now, I mean, in so many situations we have, I don't want to say policy inconsistencies, but so much uncertainty that what investors are doing essentially right now is, this sit-down-look approach. Let's see how things are going to pan out. And that doesn't help any economy, because if people just stand back and watch, it's going to be for a while, because before you know it too, those funds now fly to places where they will earn some income for the investors. I mean, there are so many other countries that are looking for such investors, and then again too, they are actually driving the process. Iran is a case study, and then again too, what that means is, not forgetting the fact that you have limited resources. When you miss that window of opportunity, it takes quite a while for you to have that. And so we really have to be a lot more enduring in terms of our policies. Agriculture, yes. Any nation that cannot feed itself is walking a path to crisis. So we really need to keep pursuing the agricultural sector, and I'm glad that both the central bank and even the Bank of Industry, they are actually working towards ensuring that access to agricultural funding is good, and then single digit, which is very, very fundamental. But like I said, a whole lot of things do come into play. Of course, again, don't forget the political environment. It's very key, and then this is a pre-election. So there will be a lot of overheating of the polity. A lot of money will be spent to drive the process. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting, but let's hope that all that excitement will translate to to boom and growth for people.
Let's look at it's ours, because we are Nigerians, our economic recovery and growth plan. It's a document that we actually expect implementation, I think, from now. This ought to have even started, the implementation ought to have been on, we should ought to have started feeling the impact
had
of
the budget being passed and all that.
Yeah. Now, what do you think of these documents? What are your expectations? Because many have said, beautiful documents, the projections are also look like a tall order.
No, you see, we've never been bereft of good policies. I mean, right from time, even in the 50s, even in the 60s, the development plans, the rolling plans, they've all been wonderful. And to a large extent, especially at the initial stages, these documents were actually executed. So I mean, that's where you see, if you look back at where we're coming from, Nigeria actually grew tremendously in the 60s and some part of the 70s. The Basita, sugar, mill, and a whole lot of them, the Okbela cement factory, and I mean, even the universities and polytechnics that were set up, a whole lot of them were during that period. So we've never been short of that. What has actually affected us over time has been implementation. And it's not because Nigerians suddenly became bereft of how to execute this or implement these policies, but I think along the line we now lack the political will to do things. I mean, let's take this fuel crisis, this fuel situation that we have. It doesn't take one to be a graduate from Harvard Business School or Yale or Cardiff University Business School to know that there's subsidy.
Yeah.
All it simply needs is for us to own up to the fact that this thing is being subsidized, and essentially because of the fact that our refineries are not working. The old ones are operating far below capacity utilization. There are no new ones installed. or set up. So what it essentially means is that we'll keep importing this product, and of course, the landing cost is determined by, the price of, the foreign exchange, and it's been, fluctuating here and there. So it's not something that you can actually determine. So we need to own up, to certain things that we seem to be, blindsiding, and until all this, I believe, happen, we'll just be oscillating in the void as we are doing presently.
As we round up this segment of the interview now, let's look at some basic things as an economist now, looking at economic policy and all that we've seen, the challenges we've faced in the year. Where do you think where should be our focus? Where should we really start from?
The macroeconomy, where you now break it down into fiscal and monetary. Like I've always emphasized, the central bank, I estimate by second quarter, should stop playing politics with business or playing politics with the economy. The rates necessarily have to go down, the MPR, as well as the cash reserve ratio. Yeah, arguments could be made that even when the CRR was low, banks are not lending. I mean, a whole lot of factors come into lending. But let's even try something different. This policy of inflation targeting has been on for quite a while, and I keep saying this at the expense of growth. We cannot continue to copy and paste what the OECD economies, especially Britain, for example, is doing. I mean, they've gotten to a point where we've not even started, and let's look at what Donald Trump is doing in the United States right now. Directly, he went and targeted taxation, reduced it. And what that essentially means is that there will be a lot more money for investment, right? And the economy grows. So that is one aspect. Then on the fiscal leg, the government has to spend and really spend. The government needs to spend bullishly and efficiently. It's not enough to say you want to spend 750 billion and at the end of the day, the real money you spend or that really gets into some of these projects is like 250 billion, and then we can't give account of 500 billion. And then they need to be a lot less bullish in their taxation drive. Again too, because the question then arises, who are the people you are taxing? The rate of unemployment is pretty high. So, I mean, taxation, part of it is, the direct taxation, pay as you earn. If you don't have so many people working, that reduces. Businesses are not thriving, right? A lot of them are struggling. So essentially means that if you overburden them with taxes, they will crumble. So there has to be a reduction in, the taxation itself, and then even the approach to getting, it doesn't make sense for you to go shut down an industry because they're not paying tax. We need to be a lot more friendly because of the fact that even people who are waiting in the wings to come and invest in the country, they observe these things, and it determines whether they want to come or whether they balk.
Economist there, Osilama Okuofu. I know you can go on and on. The passion is there about the Nigerian economy, but that's all we can take for now on Business Tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for